Let me tell you what nobody talks about when they talk about 90s movies. Everyone remembers the blockbusters, Jurassic Park, Independence Day, the films that ate the summer whole and spawned 1,000 think pieces about the death of the auteur. But while all that was happening, there was this whole parallel universe of sci-fi horror running quietly alongside it. Weird, ambitious, occasionally brilliant films that just didn't make it. Bad timing, studio meddling, a marketing department that had no idea what it was selling. Whatever the reason, they disappeared. I'm not talking about cheap cash grabs. Some of these had real directors, serious budgets, and ideas that were genuinely ahead of what mainstream cinema was willing to touch. A few never made it to theaters in most countries at all. They went straight to the video shelf, where horror fans found them on a Friday night and never quite forgot what they saw. Here are 11 of them. Most people have never heard of any of these, which is the whole point. Let's get into it. Number 11, The Relic, 1997. Here's something you almost never see in creature features anymore: patience. The Relic is set inside Chicago's Field Museum of Natural History, which already puts it in a different category from pretty much every other monster movie of the decade. A mysterious crate arrives from South America. Something gets out, and the bodies start turning up before anyone has a clue what they're dealing with. Director Peter Hyams made the deliberate choice to hold back the creature for most of the runtime, the same instinct that made Jaws work. Let the audience's imagination do the heavy lifting. Show the aftermath. Stay in the shadows. It was the right call. The Cathoga is an impressive piece of practical effects work, but the film understands that the second you put a monster fully on screen, you risk killing the spell you've been casting for an hour. The first two acts run almost entirely on atmosphere, on the sound of something moving through spaces that should be empty, on the creeping sense that the museum itself has become hostile. The film was actually shot on location at the Field Museum, which was rare even then, and gives it a texture that a set never could have replicated. Behind the scenes, though, Hyams and Paramount were fighting constantly. The studio wanted more creature, more action, more stuff for the trailer. Hyams wanted what he wanted. What got released was somewhere in the middle. It opened to about $35 million on a $45 million budget, which nobody threw a party over. The trailers had sold it as a straightforward monster movie, so the thriller audience it was actually made for mostly stayed home. But cable TV got hold of it, and over the next few years it built exactly the audience it deserved, slowly, through word of mouth, one recommendation at a time. That's how the best cult films usually happen. Number 10, Screamers, 1995. Philip K. Dick's short story Second Variety, published in 1953, is about autonomous killing machines that evolve past the intentions of the people who built them and start making their own decisions. It is bleak and paranoid and deeply unsettling. It also became a 1995 film that almost nobody saw, which is a genuine shame. Screamers takes the story to a dying mining planet called Sirius 6b, where a long-abandoned war is technically still being fought. Peter Weller plays a military commander who's been there long enough to stop believing in anything. The Screamers are underground blade machines built by humans to kill the enemy, except they've been learning. And what they've learned is that they can look like something else entirely. The whole film is shot in Montreal, using industrial wastelands and quarries as the dead planet. For $20 million, the production design is surprisingly convincing. Gray and cold and suffocating in exactly the right way. Weller is the perfect anchor for this kind of material. He plays exhaustion and moral ambiguity with a quietness that keeps everything grounded, even as the paranoia ratchets up. It barely made back its budget. Critics mostly filed it away as another genre picture and moved on. What they missed was that the film's central question, what happens when machines evolve past what we designed them for, is sitting right at the center of conversations we're having now about AI and autonomous systems. Screamers was asking all of this in 1995, on a fake dead planet, and practically nobody noticed. Number 9, Mimic, 1997. Before Guillermo del Toro won the Oscar, before Pan's Labyrinth, before The Shape of Water, there was Mimic, and it nearly ended his American career before it started. The premise is solid. A scientist engineers an insect species to wipe out disease-carrying cockroaches in New York. The plan works. 3 years later, the insects are back, and they've evolved to mimic the thing at the top of the food chain. The film should have been a showcase for one of genre cinema's most distinctive directors. Instead, it became a battle. The Weinstein brothers, who controlled the production through Miramax, reportedly clashed with Del Toro at every stage. Scenes were rewritten without him. The edit was taken out of his hands. Del Toro has talked about this publicly. He's described it as one of the most painful experiences of his career, a process that left him questioning whether he could work in Hollywood at all. What got released wasn't really his film. The result is uneven in a way that makes complete sense when you know the history. Two different visions fought each other to a draw in the editing room, and the film carries the evidence. It made about $25 million worldwide and drew mixed reviews. Some critics recognized the craft in what remained of Del Toro's vision. Others just found it messy. Then in 2011, a director's cut came out. It restored enough of Del Toro's original footage to make a real difference. The pacing settled, the atmosphere deepened, the film started feeling like it belonged to one person. The director's cut is genuinely excellent. The theatrical version is a ghost of what might have been. If you haven't seen the director's cut, that's the one to watch. Number 8. The Puppet Masters, 1994. Robert Heinlein published The Puppet Masters in 1951, and the central image, alien parasites attaching to human hosts through the spine, controlling them silently, invisibly, without the host even knowing, influenced science fiction for decades before Hollywood got around to it. The 1994 adaptation isn't a disaster. Donald Sutherland leads the cast as a government intelligence chief, and he brings genuine authority to it. The performances are solid. People on the production clearly believed in what they were making. The problem was that Hollywood Pictures, the Disney subsidiary producing it, didn't appear to share that belief, and it showed in how they handled the release. Minimal marketing, no real enthusiasm, a theatrical run and then a shrug. Timing didn't help either. Body Snatchers came out the same year with a similar alien takeover premise, and the two films split an audience that might have supported either one individually. Heinlein's estate was unhappy about changes to the source material. It was a mess. What's left is a competent, engaging thriller. Not groundbreaking, but genuinely watchable, with a premise that never really gets old. The horror of watching someone you trust suddenly not be themselves is something the film handles with real unease. It became the kind of film you'd stumble across on a Saturday afternoon and end up watching to the end, surprised by how much you were enjoying it. For a lot of people, that's exactly how they found it. Number 7. Body Snatchers, 1993. 3 adaptations of Jack Finney's novel. The 1956 original is a Cold War classic. The 1978 version with Donald Sutherland is one of the great horror remakes. And then there's this one, directed by Abel Ferrara, set on a military base, almost completely ignored. That's the one worth talking about. Ferrara made his name with raw, uncomfortable films that pushed against what mainstream cinema would tolerate. He wasn't an obvious choice for a studio sci-fi project, and that friction between his instincts and the material is exactly what makes his version so interesting. Setting the story on a military base was a genuinely smart choice. The military already runs on conformity, on individuals subordinating themselves to the group. When everyone around you is already supposed to look and act the same, how do you know when they've been replaced? Gabrielle Anwar carries the film as the teenage daughter of a government inspector sent to evaluate the base, and she's credible and grounded in a film that increasingly asks you to distrust everything you're seeing. The dread builds slowly and then lands hard in the final act. Warner Brothers had no idea what to do with it. The theatrical release was extremely limited in most markets, and it moved to home video quickly. Critics who actually engaged with it recognized it as the most psychologically unnerving of the 3 versions, leaner and more suffocating than either predecessor. It gets under your skin and stays there, which is more than most horror films can claim. Number 6. Event Horizon, 1997. Some cult films earn their status because they're fun. Event Horizon earned its status partly because of what's missing from it, because the version that exists is only part of what was made, and the missing pieces have taken on a life of their own. Paul W.S. Anderson directed this years before the Resident Evil franchise became his calling card. The setup. A rescue crew is sent to investigate a spacecraft called the Event Horizon that vanished near Neptune 7 years ago and has now reappeared with its crew dead. The ship was fitted with an experimental drive designed to fold space. What it actually did was open a door to somewhere else. and whatever came back through that door isn't the same ship that went in. Sam Neill and Lawrence Fishburne lead a strong cast, and Neill in particular seems to genuinely relish his character's arc. The production design is extraordinary. The ship's interior was built as a massive practical set, all Gothic architecture and ecclesiastical menace, which is a strange and perfect choice for a spacecraft. It's the kind of detail that separates films people remember from films they don't. Here's the problem. Paramount test-screened an early cut that ran well over 2 hours and apparently shook the test audiences badly. The studio panicked and ordered massive cuts. Anderson trimmed the film down to around 95 minutes. The excised footage was sent to a storage facility in a Transylvanian salt mine. It deteriorated. Much of it is reportedly gone permanently, and every few years there are rumors of a restoration project that never materializes. The film made $26 million against a $60 million budget and was written off as a failure. It has since been completely reassessed. Event Horizon is now firmly in the canon of beloved cult sci-fi horror, with a fan base still hoping that whatever footage survives might one day be recovered. Don't hold your breath, but don't stop hoping either. Number 5. Ticks, 1993. Not everything on this list got buried by a studio that didn't understand it. Some films were just small, made cheap, released quietly, found by exactly the audience they were made for. Ticks is that film, and there's no shame in it. Produced by Brian Yuzna, the man who kept the Reanimator franchise alive well past its expiry date, Ticks does exactly what it says on the tin. Mutant ticks, enormous, glistening, genuinely horrible mutant ticks, terrorize a group of troubled teenagers on a wilderness retreat in rural California. That's the movie. It commits to this completely and without irony, which is the right approach. What lifts it above your average low-budget creature feature is the practical effects work, handled by Doug Beswick Productions, the same team behind effects in Aliens and The Terminator. That pedigree shows. The ticks are tactile and physical and deeply unpleasant in a way that CGI rarely manages, and when they start burrowing under human skin, the film doesn't look away. The body horror is played totally straight. The cast includes a young Seth Green in one of his earlier substantial roles, and Alfonso Ribeiro, Carlton Banks, fresh off The Fresh Prince, in a turn that would have surprised anyone who only knew him from that show. Both are better than the material strictly requires, which helps. Ticks never got a real theatrical release. It lived entirely on VHS, becoming a fixture of late-night horror marathons and teenage sleepovers throughout the mid-90s. If you grew up renting horror films in that era, there's a decent chance you've seen it, possibly without remembering exactly where or when. That's the kind of film it is. Number 4. The Arrival, 1996. Charlie Sheen's public persona was already heading somewhere messy by 1996, and that shadow followed The Arrival into theaters and kept a lot of people from taking it seriously. Which is a pity, because it's genuinely smart. Sheen plays Zane Zeminski, a radio astronomer who picks up an unmistakably artificial signal from deep space, actual proof of extraterrestrial contact. Before he can report it, he's fired. His data disappears. When he starts digging into why, the answer reframes everything. The invasion isn't coming, it already happened. The aliens aren't arriving, they're already here, and they've been quietly heating Earth's atmosphere to make it more hospitable for themselves. That idea, aliens engineering climate change as a form of terraforming, was remarkably timely in 1996, when the climate conversation existed but hadn't yet reached the urgency it would later. The Arrival used it as a straight-up horror mechanic before most mainstream films were willing to engage with climate as subject matter at all. It's aged better than most films from that year. Director David Twohy used this as his calling card. He'd go on to make Pitch Black 4 years later, and the confident, efficient storytelling you see in The Arrival is exactly why Pitch Black worked. He builds worlds fast and doesn't waste scenes. The film made around $14 million domestically, fine for the budget, but the summer marketplace swallowed it. Genre fans who've revisited it consistently rank it among the better alien invasion films of the decade. It deserves a bigger audience than it ever got. Number 3. Progeny, 1998. By the late 90s, alien abduction mythology was everywhere. The X-Files was at its peak. Abduction memoirs were bestsellers. people were genuinely debating at actual dinner tables whether the government was hiding evidence of contact. Progeny landed right in the middle of all that and did something most abduction films didn't bother with. It made the horror deeply, uncomfortably personal. Brian Yuzna directed, his second appearance on this list, and his willingness to push body horror past the point of comfort is fully on display. Arnold Vosloo and Gillian McWhirter play a couple who begin to suspect that a night they can barely remember wasn't what they thought. As the pregnancy progresses, something feels wrong. Not vaguely wrong, specifically, biologically, unmistakably wrong. And the further they investigate, the more certain they become that the child being carried isn't entirely theirs. Vosloo was fresh off The Mummy when this came out, and he's good, grounded and credible in material that could easily tip into camp. McWhirter carries the heavier emotional and physical weight of the film's most demanding sequences. The practical effects around the pregnancy were reportedly difficult enough that some crew members struggled with them. The results on screen make that believable. No theatrical release to speak of. It appeared on home video with minimal attention and was mostly ignored by critics. But within horror circles, it built a quiet reputation, passed along between people with a specific taste for dread that lives not in monster design, but in the corruption of something that should feel safe. Watching it now, the film's central anxiety, bodily autonomy stripped away, hits differently than it probably did in 1998. It's more relevant than it probably intended to be. Number 2. Habitat, 1997. Canada produced some genuinely strange genre cinema in the 90s. Habitat is probably the strangest. A scientist genetically engineers his family's home to be a living ecosystem. The walls grow, the floors breathe, plants and organisms colonize every surface, and the house becomes a biological entity. The family trapped inside has to figure out how to survive what their father, Balthazar Getty, committing fully, has created. That's the setup. The execution is even weirder than it sounds. Habitat is part body horror, part environmental horror, part family drama, and it doesn't really resolve into any of them cleanly, which is both its greatest strength and why it never found a mainstream audience. Getty's performance has the quality of someone who is fully committed to a vision he may not entirely understand, which is, oddly, exactly right for the material. The set design and practical effects are impressive for the budget. Genuinely organic environments that feel wrong in ways that are hard to technically articulate. It premiered on the festival circuit to reactions that were mostly baffled. Not hostile, people weren't walking out, just confused in the way you are when you've seen something you don't have a category for. In retrospect, that's a better sign than a polite reception. Its environmental themes have aged in ways nobody on the production probably anticipated. The idea that nature, pushed past its limits and manipulated beyond its tolerances, will find a way to respond. That sits very differently now than it did in 1997. Habitat was making that argument in the form of a Canadian sci-fi horror film almost nobody saw, nearly 30 years ago. It's never had a proper streaming release and remains one of the hardest films on this list to find legally, which, honestly, only adds to it. Number 1. Dark Breed, 1996. Everything else on this list involved theatrical releases, studio politics, or some kind of behind-the-scenes chaos. Dark Breed is different. It went straight to video, made no apologies for it, and delivered exactly what it promised to the people who found it. Jack Scalia plays a government agent tracking down a group of astronauts who came back from a classified mission carrying something inside them, an alien species using human hosts as vehicles. What follows is a sci-fi action-horror hybrid that moves quickly, takes its own mythology seriously, and never lets you forget that something genuinely dangerous is driving the story. What's surprising is how much care went into the internal logic. The alien parasite concept is detailed and consistent. The rules hold up. A lot of direct-to-video productions from this era cut corners on exactly that kind of thing, but someone on the writing team cared about making the sci-fi elements cohere. The production borrows visually from bigger budget films of the period, but there's a scrappy, committed energy to it that genre fans tend to respond to. Dark Breed represents something worth remembering about 90s sci-fi horror. The enormous amount of genre filmmaking that happened outside the studio system, made on small budgets, distributed through video stores, consumed by an audience that has largely moved on. That whole ecosystem is gone now. Streaming replaced it, and streaming is more convenient, but considerably more curated. The random discovery, the film you picked up because the box art caught your eye, with no reviews and no algorithm nudging you toward it, is almost entirely a thing of the past. That's actually a loss worth acknowledging.
What connects these 11 films isn't really the decade or the genre or even the bad luck. It's what they represent. A specific moment when practical effects were still king, when strange ideas could get funded, and when the video store functioned as a kind of democracy for cinema. If a film was good enough, or weird enough, or just determined enough, it could find its audience. It might take a few years, but it could happen. Some of these have turned up on streaming platforms. A few remain genuinely difficult to locate. Event Horizon still exists in incomplete form, its missing pieces somewhere in a Transylvanian salt mine, possibly gone for good. But films that get buried have a way of coming back. Through the people who found them at the right moment, who passed them along, who kept talking about them long after the studios stopped caring. That's how all of these survived. Which one are you watching first?